Roger once again, Mudfossil University today, making some complaints, and I never complain without having some kind of solution to, and the reason why I'm complaining is the reason none of these solutions are ever looked at. They're not even looked at, never looked at. Now, why am I saying I'm complaining? Well, I'm complaining because people are sick. And I watched a show the other night, which a guy with ALS, and they just told him go home and die. He's a football player, and now they're claiming, oh, it's because you hit your head too many times. Well, I don't necessarily agree with any of this stuff. Well, before they can say anything to him, they should know what's in his body, and they don't. I don't think they do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I never saw anybody be able to show me any of this. So I want somebody to step up and tell me why this is not available, or is it available? And if it isn't, let's make it available. Here's the deal. Body chemistry is, you need your health norms. Well, how much barium are you supposed to have? How much gold? How much platinum is supposed to be in your body? And I guarantee you, every one of those elements should be in your body if it is not. Now, so we don't have a database that tells you any of those things. They get half a dozen things and they say all the rest is just trace elements. Absolutely, totally wrong. And I will show you the chemistry of that. And absolutely, without question, all of those things were made to do a job of carrying products around your body. We need a database to find out if they're there or not, because you can't carry the stuff around. You cannot make your body function if you do not have them. So let's take it from there. What do we need? We need a database. What does that database consist of? Complete blood chemistry. Not just a couple of this and one of that and a little cholesterol here and there and sodium. No, we need every single thing that's in your blood. Everything. Quantity and what it is. And they have machines that do this now, you know, X-ray spectroscopes and fluoroscopes and things like this. They can do this stuff. Now, we need a complete fecal analysis, everything, not just, you know, there's no blood in it. We know what is there, well, what kind of bacteria, what kind of enzymes, and all of that. These things are going to be in your blood, and then there's going to be stuff in your fecal analysis, and the two of them work in tandem. Absolutely required for one to work with the other. So what bacteria do you have? And what bacteria creates enzymes? What enzymes do you have? The enzymes break down the products in your intake, in your food. They break them down into little tiny bitty pieces. I'm going to go over all this with the chemistry, and then I'm going to show it to you in mud fossils, because that's how I gleaned all this information. Now, if we had all of this information, which is not much, you just say, here's what's in the blood, prints it out. Here's what's in the fecal analysis, prints it out. Here's what my health issues are, you write them down. Boom, it goes in the database. You get 10,000 samples in that database, and if absolutely no question whatsoever, it will yield normal ranges. And if you're not in that normal range, why? And that is going to tip you off to the reason that you're sick. Not just try some of this, try some of that, go home, there's nothing we can do. If we had this, now we would have a clue on what your chemistry is and why. Normally, it's going to be your bacteria. Now, I'm going to go into this next video, or I'll continue it on with this one probably. It'll be very long, but that's just the way life is. If you want to know, good. If you don't, good for you. Now, the way I'm going to show you, the reason I'm going to be able to explain all this is from mud fossils and the chemistry that is within mud fossils and what you're going to see and how well preserved these things were. That's a fascia tongue. You see that little flap that's sticking off the front there? That's a fascia tongue. Now, there's people claiming of patinas and stuff on it, but you see the red color here? Let me see if I get a look. That red that you're going to see on the top is underneath fascia. You see how nice and red that is? That's how this whole stone was when I first got it, but now it's getting dried out and turns brown. Now, so what does that tell you? Well, sometimes the patina can be protected by certain tissues, and it's in certain conditions, and even in the same piece of meat, the patina will change drastically colors. But this is actual meat, and that little piece right in the front there, that little flap that sticks down, and the hinge in the front, that's what they call a fascia tongue, and it invests this whole chunk into the fascia system that wraps your whole body. Now, this is a DNA certified human lung right there. That's been DNA tested. Ancient protocols, and show that little pattern of these little stripy things here to a doctor. That's a left lung. That's the impression of the heart right up at the top. And that's that little flap on the bottom. That's like that fascia tongue that flaps down. And it's a bonehead. And I'm going to show all this stuff later in great detail, and how I can find the chemistry in here, the actual molecules and atoms and elements that make up tendon enthesis points, that make up joints and make up ligaments and tendons and fibers and hair and collagens and keragens and all of the different materials that your body is made out of. And there is a ton of them. Some resist acid, some resist salts, some do keep things out, some are inert, some are stretchy, some are non-stretchy, some are everything you can think of. So let's go into the chemistry, how to fix yourself. Because people have ALS, they have RA, rheumatoid arthritis, they have joint issues, they have chronic health problems, and it's because of this. If we had that database, you would have a clue as to where to go. Right now, nobody has an idea what to do. And 99%, I'm going to say, this is my claim, I could be wrong, but I'm not hurting anybody by saying it. My claim is that unless you have your body chemistry correct and what you take in is processed correctly, you're going to be sick. I don't care what you take. I don't care what happens after that. You take it in and you can't process it, you're sick. Case closed. It's Roger, once again, Mudfossil University, today talking about health and how we might be able to help this situation. Now, I was watching 60 Minutes last night, and there was a guy on there, a football player who has ALS disease, and he's going to die, and they said, go home and die. That was it. And there's nothing we can do. Now, I'm not so sure that that's the case. I would, if it was me, or if I had someone in this condition, I would want to know what my basic chemistry was. Am I way out of whack in my chemistry? Because I believe that's what's going on. So let's talk just a little bit, and then I'm going to show you why I say that I understand the chemistry better than the doctors do. I have actual examples, and we're going to look at them. They're right down here, showing the actual chemistry of the colors of the metals and the elements where tendons invest and so forth. They don't understand the absolute importance of bacteria in your body, enzymes in your body, and transition metals in your body. Totally not understood. They think that everything's genetic and this and that, and it just happens, and that you're subject to that, and da 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 da. Well, I'm not going with that. Now, and I've done a lot of research on this, so I'm not just spewing out theories of nothingness. All right? What my claim is that you are nothing more than a chemistry set. You are nothing more than a chemical factory. Just a chemical factory. These chemicals come into you, you break them up and send them to where they have to be used in your body, and then you dispense of the waste, and then you take in more stuff. So let's talk about that process. When you eat something, you chew it up and you break it into little pieces, and that's wonderful, and you swallow it and have a nice day. Well, that's good. Well, what happens after that? In your stomach, there's acid. Everybody knows that. You got acid in there. Well, what does the acid do? It breaks down the molecules more. It breaks them down, and it cracks them into little bits and pieces. Then what happens? Well, it's acid now. It's acid. Your body can't take that into your intestines as acid, so it goes into a place, I think they call it the lumen, and what it does is it buffers that acid out of it, and it brings it back into a more neutral sort of condition where it can pass into the intestines, and then these little things poke into it, and they want to take out the molecules. They want to use the atoms that are in there and the molecules, but they need those atoms and molecules in their tiniest, most basic raw form, in acids and salts and broken down in the chemistry into such tiny little pieces that the body can carry it around and work with it. It can't carry it give me that big chunk of stone. No, obviously not. It has to break it into pieces. Well, what does that? Enzymes. All right, there's enzymes. There's all kinds of enzymes in your body, and that we need to know. What enzymes do you have? Can you break apart these molecules? Can you even get the food you want? If you don't have the enzymes, you are not going to have the food you want. You are not going to have the product to go to be delivered to wherever your toenails are, or your eyeballs, or your hair, or your skin. It's just not going to be there. Or the molecule that you need to go and harvest the things in your body that should be wastes and get out of there, heavy metals and iron and excess quantities of things, won't be there to do that job. You are a absolute dance. And I mean, the chemistry that you have is very, very, very specific. It doesn't range in, a guy can have 400 pounds of this in his body and 1 pound of that and he's fine, and the other guy has 200 pounds of this and 500 pounds of that and he's fine. No. Everybody has a little of this and a little of that, but in these exact quantities that your body can transfer out acids and salts and so forth. It's called alkalosis and acidosis. And what it does is it builds up in your blood, and you got to clear that stuff out and keep this certain pH of 7.35 to 7.45, which in this 14 pH number. So you're in 1/10 of 1% of one. You know what I'm saying? It's a very small range that you're supposed to be in. And if you drift from that range, your body's going to not be in good shape. Now, you may start to collect metals. You may remove things that you can't get to things. And so if you don't have the enzymes, you're not going to have the products in your body. So how do the enzymes get there? Well, enzymes are created by bacteria. Bacteria are in your body, thousands of them. And if they're not there, you're not going to be well, and you're not going to have a good digestive system. You're going to be sick all the time. Your stomach's going to be sore. You're going to have problems pooping and this and that, and all kinds of problems with your digestive system. And then you're sick. That's what's going to tell you you're sick. If you're not digesting correctly, you're not going to be healthy. It's as simple as that. You're going to have something wrong with you. If your digestive system can deal with everything that you take in, and the things that you take in are good, healthy things. You can't just eat anything. And the things that we make now, you can't even pronounce the names of them. And people think, oh, that's good, it preserves the food, and then I can eat it. Well, what is it doing when it gets in you? These aren't chemicals that just nothing to them. So your chemistry set, you're supposed to be eating from the earth as close as you can, and bacteria and all kinds of things that come from the earth are good for you. All right, so how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to fix this guy with ALS? All right, so what causes it? Is it genes or is it chemistry? If it's genes, I can't help the guy. But if it's chemistry, I can help him. So what is the correct metal levels? We don't know. There's 100 metals almost in your body. They're all transition metals. A transition metal means that you can grab a hold with one electron and hold a molecule and carry it down to your toenails or wherever. And how does it do that? It does it by pH. And the pH drifts in that tiny little range, but it's enough that at your fingertips, it's enough of a difference in pH from your heart that it can dump off and pick up things because of a pH change. It's very, very tiny, but you're dealing with this tiny range, and you're dealing with a transition metal, which can add one little, it's carboxylation, and carbonic acids are picked up and move through your body, and so forth, salts and acids. And that is the nature of the delivery system in your body. It delivers things, and it picks things up. This is what your hemoglobin does. It delivers oxygen, and it picks up carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide goes out through your lungs as carbonic acid. And your lungs spit out all kinds of different acids, and those different acids are gathered and worked on by transition metals like these in this particular little lung. All lungs, you see how it has all these little crevices in there? Let me see if I can get an angle where you can see the crevices. You see all those little crevices? That's where the blood is. That's where the blood filters through those transition metals. And those transition metals will change colors a little bit when I put water on them. They easily hydrate. And there's colors in here which correspond to the different metals that are in those crystals. And they will somehow, and I can't tell you exactly how, but they attach to the passing by blood molecules, and then pressures, I believe, in the lung allow them to be expelled through carbonic acid, carboxylation, carbonic acids. Now, what does this mean to us? We need to know these metals levels. Oh, how much of the metals are in your body? How much of all these metals that we never even think about? They just say, oh, there's a handful of metals we know about, and that's it. Yeah, that's all you need. No. You need every metal in some tiny little quantity. Not much, tiny. There's gold, platinum, silver, copper, barium, every single thing that you can think of is in your body. And they have a purpose. They're not there just by accident. All these things are made to deliver or pick up other molecules that can hold to that particular transition metal. That's how it works. And if you don't have them in your blood, and I'll show you how I can prove that they're in your blood. Now, I can show you all this stuff here, and I will a little bit. But, like that was DNA tested, a lung. This is a fingertip, and the other one that came out of the same hole was DNA tested. And this particular color, you see that? That's where tendons lock into your body. And how can I say that? See up here? Same thing. See these same colors? It's kind of hard to see. Here, let me get a light. But you see that same color up there? That's where those tendons lock in. They don't even know this stuff. See them down here? See the colors? That same color. That's not just mud or something. That is the color of that particular tendon attachment. Now, if you don't have that color there, you don't have the correct chemistry, and you're going to have a sore. It's going to be sore. It's going to be, something's going to be wrong with that. Now, these bones, this is a bone. It's a bonehead. All right? Now, all of that, these are mud fossils, so they're not like scrappy bones. And you can see that's all, that little tiny spot right there is all that's left of the bone. You see that little, I don't know if it's white left now, but that's all that's left of the bone. Everything else is transition. Transition means it's turned into other mineral substances that were invaded. The original basic material was invaded and replaced in many cases and just attached to, they call different types of bondings and invasion processes. Now, that hole right there is the ligament attachment. You see all those little tiny holes? That's where all those tendon enthesis balls attach. And right against this would be another bone, and that bone would be locked together with this bone by another one on the other side. Now, there's other places in here, like this is a foramen. That's a bone foramen. And what a bone foramen does is it allows nerves and blood vessels and so forth to enter the bone itself through this layer, the surface layer, which they call tunica. You see this triangular spot here? That wraps this thing. The whole thing is wrapped up with a fabric, and it keeps it isolated from the salt in your body. It keeps it in its own environment, and in your body there's salt everywhere in your body. It's a salty environment, but not here. These keep away from that salt, and when you die and in the salt water, they actually dissolve. The bones dissolve in salt water, and some of them in the mud, they actually get invaded and they stay preserved. But if it was in just a slurpy water flowing around, splashing and everything, this would just have disintegrated into nothing. But because it was encapsulated in mud, I'm sure, I'm saying that, but I can't prove that, but I'm pretty sure that it came out. And then here's the way, that's why it came out still intact as a bonehead. Now, let me show you something else here. This is one I just picked up the other day. You see those little two brown spots there? That's scabs. Those are scabs. Just like you have a scab on you. Now, that's a bonehead, and it fractured where normally you would see the blood vessels would be running through the inside. And you see the black. The black is the ferritin and ferrite that's inside of bones. That's and the red ones, those are just little blood vessels that have spewed out blood. That's a scab. Those are scabs. Now there's blood. I know there's DNA in there. There's no question there's DNA. I have them when they squirt out blood like you won't believe, like this one here. put a little water on there. It might come back a little bit, but it's been here for years. This one here. That's a lung. Those red spots. When I originally had this, all those red spots bubbled blood. Every one of them had a bubble of blood on there. Seriously, bubble. I could go on and on and on, and I probably guess I should say a couple more things. Because today, or not today, but within the last 6 months or so, I finally realized about skin and how many layers of skin there are. And I realized that, well, first of all, I have to talk about toes, and this is how I realized the toes were the key to this whole thing. Toes will end up turning like that. That's a toe. And I go, oh, Roger, that can't be a toe. Yes, it is a toe. And that little spot right there is the last bone part of the toe. You see that little white spot right there? That's it. You see the red and the black here and there, but the red, you see that red? That's the blood, and that's the tip of the toe. They all have lot of red blood at the tip, and that's a toe. And toes have a ton of metal in them. They're just loaded with metal. Now, you see this lump on the end here? I've been looking at this thing. I know it's a toe, and I'm looking at all these layers in there, and I never really thought much about it. You see all those layers there? Layer, 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 one after another. This is really all that's left. That's almost all skin. So I remembered this one I had cut long ago. You see all the same things? Layer, 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 all the way down, and you see some blood in there, here and there. You see it, the red blood and so forth. I don't know if you can be able to see this okay. Anyway, so that's one of these callus spots. This is all, you see the little red holes here and there, the little tiny little red blood vessel holes. All the rest of that, these little tiny layers, thin layers, that's skin. That's skin from a toe. All right? And I'm talking layers you won't believe. I'm going to show you some other ones that are bigger than this. But you can see, this is the pattern you see all over the earth. You see that wavy looking stuff? That's skin. That's skin. I'm not kidding you. You know, and you saw that toe over there. This is from a toe. And this will end up, well, it would have ended up being all metal at some point as all that sublimates away, all of that organic stuff. And you see there's blood in there. That's what it is. It's blood. It's blood and tissue. Now, skin can go absolutely enormously thick, which this is skin right here. I say, oh, that can't be skin. Well, yes, it is. It's absolutely skin. Trust me, I never lie and I'm always right. Now, well, no, that's my wife. All right, here we go. Now, you see this here? That's skin. That's a piece of skin. I don't know if you can see all of those tiny layers. That's skin. All right? Now, you say, oh, how can I say that? Well, I can say that because I understand it, first of all. Secondly, this is the pattern of skin where they all lock down. All of these have little tabs and they lock in like this all over. And I have one that is so big, you can see one little tab is as big as your hand. It looks like a spider. Now, this is the bottom of skin. This is the top layer of skin where it attaches to the basement layer. Now, you see how there's the moss and the like, and I always talk about they love skin. See this here I cut, that's the part that's cut, and that is all skin layers. Now, this is skin, and this was DNA certified, so don't tell me this is not skin, it is skin. And it was from a fingertip of a 36-inch wide finger, and that is the fingerprint right here. This is the fingerprint. You see that? That's the fingerprint right there, those lines, and this area that scoops up here, this area here, is the area in your finger that comes up where it meets the fingerprint. And a fingerprint is absolutely flawless. Now, this particular material is very, very tough, and that is, I believe it's carborundum. It's carbide and silicon and so forth. It might just be silicon, I don't know, but it is tough. Now, and that's what you meet the world with. That is what you meet the world with. All right, so now, what's underneath here and what's inside of here? Inside is the same thing as inside of everything, is the blood vessels. And those little tiny blood vessels are all in here, and if you can see them, you'll have a hard time, but you might be able to see some. These little tiny holes here and there. They feed, you see all the colored, that's all your red blood and so forth that's in there. They feed, that's the bottom, they feed the tissues that are here, the skin, and this is where it attaches to the bottom layer. And they have that funny colored attachment, which is like a layer that attaches to the basement layer of your skin. Now, let me show you one that is big. And, ooh, I told you these are skin cells. They come down here and grab like this. Well, this one is a single skin cell. This is skin. That is a single skin cell. It comes out like this on a strap. All right, and then it wraps around and grabs a hold of the skin like this. This is all thickness of skin, and it was probably much thicker. You see the bottom, that same looking texture as the other stuff has that I showed you? That's the bottom of the skin. This is the top, and that right here is where the blood runs on the side of the strap. This is where blood runs, and that is a bloody skin almost at the top, and that is how these things clamp in. Now, if you look at this pattern here, these are the caves that you see around the world. This yellow color, when you see this limonate yellow color here, you're going to see these are the claws. There's actually claws that go in, and the holes are between them. And they're all over. The Aboriginals used them to make their caves and so forth. Everybody used them because the claws that stick down, they are tough. I've got one here that shows it very well. All right, this is how the tendon balls, they're all over your body. Everywhere you stick a bone to a bone with a ligament or a tendon for a muscle to a bone, you have all of these balls with these straps. Now the straps are weak and they're flexible. The stone balls are tough as hell. I'm just going to run up some of these stone balls here so you can see the size of them and what they're made of. Those are the stone tendon balls. Now, this is they're like skin, and the center is filled with some kind of like sand. They're all over the place. They're all over the world in vast quantities and huge. Here's some in a wall. That's these are trees up here. So these are not puppies. These are big things. Here's they're coming out here. See that? And that the crust cracks, and they crack like onions. There's some, and they split along these. I was talking with Michael Tellinger. He has got one that exploded in his little place. See, they crack like this. The reason his exploded because it was taken out of a wet environment and put into a dry environment. These are the kind of things, if you don't understand them, they're mystery. Like he was, amazed at it, and I understand that because it literally exploded. And I'll show you what happens when they explode. But see this color? That's not normal. That happened because it was in some kind of a condition that the solvents that coated this ate in there with this green color, and that's transition metal colors. Now, the chemistry is so important to understand. That's why it's a long process. I've been doing this for a very long time. That's what happens to the center of these. This outside of these stone balls, I believe, is chert, flint, whatever you want to call it. But that's really what it's that glassy looking stuff that they made a lot of arrowheads out of and things. Now, this is what they happens to them up on these posts. The same thing, they fracture right at that strip in the center. And there's black and red going up in there to feed it with blood. Everything has to be fed with blood and so forth. And here, this shows it much better. You see the two sides? And one of them is the dark and one of them is the light. That's the red blood or whatever. I believe actually this is the red blood side and that is the vein side. Now, this is what happened to Michael Tellinger's ball. Exploded. And the reason it explodes is because they're in a dry environment going to wet, or wet environment going to dry, or in that. Well, here, let me show you something. Hold on. I will find it. Here it is right here. All right, now. Let me bring this over here. Hold on. Here we go. All right, let's back this out a little bit. Now, you see this stone here? This is a lung. Now, this is a mud fossil lung. Now, what you can do is take these and put water in them, soak them, and then put them in the freezer, and they'll crack up along the fascia planes. You see it open up here like that? You see that shiny stuff? That is the scaffolding of the lung. You see the red around there and the black, and that's the vein and artery blood, the used blood and not used blood. See how red here and a lot of the black, and there's a lot of scaffolding in here. So you can use the natural processes to look inside of these things too. Anyway, let's go back to these stone balls, because I'm telling you something. You don't even have a clue as to how big these things can get. Now, here's another thing about Michael Tellinger's, what he's doing over there, looking at these stone circles. I believe the stone circles all over the world started out as skin investments, and you're going to see, or you already have, that they follow these patterns. Now, that would be like a foundation. I mean, I see them all the time. It's very similar to that, and you're going to see more of it, more of the very similar structure as we go through. All right, there's stone balls. They're everywhere. That's a house and a van there. That's how they break up on those planes. That's a giant stone ball right there. They find these things all over the earth. They can't understand what they are. Here's all right, this is what happens inside of them. They have this pattern to really lock that stone in, and they fracture along these lines and fall apart and so forth. And then when they open up, there's one in here, this one there by Lee Simpson sent me this. See, this is what the inside of Chaco Canyon looks like, and the things that Michael Tellinger's looking at over there in South Africa. Lily sent me this. When you see this ball here, Lily Lavender sent this, and this is skin. These are layers of skin, and that right there is what's called interstitium ball, and that holds the skin. So, and then there's little straps, and the skin can flex around because it's literally gushy plastic clay. They call it. It's called plastic clay, literally, and it can move around, and it will come back along these tags, these straps. And this is the same thing. You see that? Another ball like this. I believe that's about what Michael Tellinger had, something similar to that when he first started and then exploded. And they have these center cores, and these are the same things. They're all over the place. And there's dozens and dozens, and sometimes hundreds of them right in the same spot. You see that one, the cord that runs out ran out of here, and it's eroded off and gone now. Stone Ball Peninsula, these things, that's actually a stone ball. Oh, no, you got to be crazy, Roger. No, these are the straps that run up to all. This whole thing was stone balls. And they aren't even big. Whoops. This is one that somebody sent me out of their front yard. It's sitting there. It's a stone ball. See all this stuff there? That's chert in there and flint, I'm almost certain. Look at this. The Chinese made the plates out of them. They cut those right down the middle. Remember when I said the ball exploded? It was the same kind of thing that would happen to Michael's ball. This is the same thing. They cut it straight across. These are all natural looking things. That's all natural from the inside. Now, how they preserved them so elegantly to make it solid like that, I don't know. But they did. Somehow they did it. And here's These are all stone balls. And those little stone balls are what they call interstitium. They're the same thing that give you goosebumps in your own skin. And they were on little fibers. Same thing there. Somebody collected a whole bunch of them together. All right, there's a stone ball right there. Same stone balls. This is skin. When you see this white, dusty looking stuff, that's not volcanic stuff. That is skin. It's called kaolin clay. And those balls are in there. Now, this is a stone cutter, and I have found that they use these and they cut things. And Stonehenge is made out of giant creatures. It's made out of giant creatures. That's a foot. And I know that's a foot. There's no question whatsoever that is a foot. There's a vein and artery in here. You go on the other side, you can see all the articulation. You feel your own foot, and you can feel these actual... I mean, it's almost impossible not to understand. And you can actually see where the blood vessels and so forth, as much as you can. It's still in the ground a little bit. But they've done not excavation or whatever, I don't know how they did it, but they know the heel goes exactly down where a heel is because it's a foot. Now, I'm going to show you something about tendon balls. I might as well go through the whole thing. Tendon, stone, tendon. These are tendon, Achilles tendons. These are the kind of things you see down in South America where they had done all the excavations and cut these tendons when they were wet because they were from gigantic creatures. This is the tendon ball cluster. We saw this. Now, this is where they break. This is what happens to them. That's the tendon ball. This is called an abrupt transition. And it breaks here, and you get a nice round ball. And sometimes absolutely flawless. You could see it if you know what to look for. And then you get another abrupt transition, and then it goes into this fibrous stuff that is flexible, but not really that stretchy. And it goes all different directions. And then when your clay of your skin opens up, they still want to return. They want to return to that same flexed up position. It's like a spring coming back. Ball on a stand. We saw this stuff. Now let's see about how they used to cut it. This is tendon tire tracks somewhere up in here. Tendon tire tracks. Here we go. Alright, there's a tire track. That's a four-wheel drive tire track going right over a tendon that dried out. I believe it was 4,300 years ago, something like that. Here's another one where this is in Fuerte de Sempiata, Bolivia. And, these aren't my pictures. I didn't take them. These were on the internet from somebody, and I appreciate them, whoever did it. And I'm going to show them and give my opinion of it. That was a tracked vehicle sunk in a wet, drying out tendon from a giant. This is the side... It's constructed to do this job. That it gives it support on this wet, decomposing flesh. Now, what happens to this? See the brown, red spots down here. That's blood. That's literally where the blood vessels were. Now, you see over here these cuts. They mined this. No question whatsoever it was wet. They sunk in here, so we can't dispute that. It was wet. They took these out of here when they were wet. Cannot dispute that. And what did they do with them? They built walls with them. And where did they build the walls? Let me see. I think I got it under here. Here it is, right here. That's the tendon. These are the chunks that they cut. And then they built these walls back here. And that's why they fit together so well. They were wet when they cut them. So, I guess I'll leave it at that. We need to do a little more investigation. Mudfossil University, the only place that understands this. I've been doing this for 6 years. This is like my life. This is all I do. And trust me, I learn every day. I found something every day that I didn't understand before. And I've been working with some very intelligent people, hundreds, thousands of them, because they are interested in this. They are engaged. They are excited. All right, I get things I can't keep up with it, and I apologize for not keeping up with the people that have been corresponding with me and doing things. I'm doing the best I can, but I just you know, he's only, I'm just one person to do this, so I can't, you know, and I do apologize, but I do what I can. If something is really, really critically important, I do, every time I will obviously do what I can about that. But other things are just nice. They're nice people saying nice things, and I appreciate that, and you're finding things, and they're excited, and that's fabulous, but I can't investigate every one of them. I wish I could. All right, so let's continue on here. Stay with Mudfossil University. We're building a website. It's mudfossils.com. And there'll be a book up there if I can get. That's the other thing. I got to do the book, and I'm not good at getting into that kind of stuff. I love looking at this stuff and understanding chemistry and what was written in the text. I mean, it excites me. This writing books and things like that, it's just not my way. But I will do it because right now it's getting confused, and there's people making claims that aren't right, and I have to lay down the rules of what mud fossils are. And if I'm wrong, good. We'll work it out later. But this is going to be the starting point of mud fossils because I've done the work. I did the DNA. I have the CAT scans. I have the specimens. I understand the chemistry. I've recreated the process in the lab. So it's, you know, you got to start from somewhere, and I am going to start from there, and then you guys do whatever you think. Is I'm the guy's crazy at me. He says, oh, those trees, because I say this tree, the Devil's Tower is a mud fossil foot, and it is. And everyone, oh, it's a tree, it's a tree, it's a tree. Well, they look at things and they see all kinds of things. Like people are going to say, oh, I can see, I'll get emails, I guarantee you. There's a face right there, there's her breasts, comes down, whatever it is. And yes, maybe, I don't know. But the things I do know, I can claim. And when I claim with substance. Something that is not just, oh, look at that, it looks like this, or oh, look at that, it looks like that. No. I can tell you the chemistry, the anatomy, the physiology, the biology, the whole 9 yards, how preserved in that manner, why it is there, why it's sunk in the mud, how the mud preserves things versus being out left in the sun, all this stuff. Anyway, why the bones are not there. So that's the story. Anyway, Mudfossil University, God bless you. I love you all.